Recording is in progress, so we're ready to go. So like I said, part 2, what happens in a powerlifting meet. Make sure you checked out part 1 last week. If you are watching this, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, please give me a little reaction, a heart, a thumb, a something. Say hello in the comments. Whatever you can do to interact on this video is always appreciated because it helps get the engagement up for everybody in our group. It allows this video to pop up onto their feed, onto more of their feeds. So that's always really, really, really appreciated in the group. All right. So like I said, last week we talked about what exactly powerlifting is and how to get started. This week, we're going to talk about what happens on meet day, what exactly judges are looking for, and just so that you know the proper way to train. You've got to know what judges are looking for so that you know to train for what they're looking for. And one kind of a little bit of a side note is that I always recommend treating every single rep of every single set as if you're in a competition. That means warm-ups. That means if it's only the bar and you don't even have any weight added to it at all. It's really important that you instill a lot of the positive habits and a lot of the, sorry, my dog is sinking, a lot of the positive habits and the positive routines when the weight is light, so that when the weight gets heavy, your training can kick in and take over. A lot of times I think we tend to get really complacent when the weight is light and we don't really take it as seriously as we should. We just pump out the set because we know that it's going to be easy, but you should be thinking about every cue on every rep of every single set, even if it's just the bar. We tend to kind of blow off those. And I think that there's a lot of really missed training opportunities in those warm-up sets. So with that said, let's pretend that it is meet day and your morning alarm has gone off. I want you to treat your morning as if it were any other morning. Stick to all of your normal routines. Don't throw yourself off because that's when you forget shit, right? So make sure that you're eating an adequate amount in order to support your morning. You're going to have warm-ups to do. Squats are going to be the first thing that you do in a meet. So you want to make sure you've eaten enough to help get you through all of your heavy squat attempts. Don't eat anything new that day. Stick to tried and true. Stick to normal stuff. Don't get creative just because it's meet day. Make sure that your body is feeling good and your body is ready for what's to come. Get dressed in your singlet and whatever appropriate underclothes. And by that, I mean for squats, you need to have a t-shirt on underneath your singlet. You need to wear either like brief type underwear, like probably like bikini ones or even like granny panties, honestly, or none at all. So you can go commando in just your singlet if that's more comfortable for you. So make sure whatever undergarments you have are appropriate. Oh, and for your sports bra, you can't have a padded sports bra. So make sure you've got all the appropriate undergarments on. And your singlet, and you're going to wear that to the meet. That's going to make things a lot easier. Don't stress out about changing once you get there. Just wear it to the meet. Definitely take or put over top some sweats, hoodie, whatever comfortable things for you to wear in between the lifts. And then you're going to head to the venue, whether it's in a gym or wherever it is. You're going to head there about 60 to 90 minutes before the meet begins. You're going to want to check with the meet director to find out exactly when the doors will open. And I always recommend getting there before the doors open. That way, when they open, you're there, you're ready to rock. There's going to be a lifters meeting. So you want to know what time the lifters meeting will be. And the lifters meeting is going to cover all of the basic rules of the meet. It's going to make sure no one has any questions and that everybody's good to go before the meet begins. That's usually run by either the meet director or one of the judges. And yeah, so if you have any questions, that's the time to ask. Make sure that you're getting there early enough to give yourself enough time to find a spot to camp for the day. Make sure you locate where are the bathrooms in this venue. You're going to need them more than you think, I promise. You want to make sure you have time to get your usual warm-ups in. And I don't mean warm-ups under the bar. I mean any mobility that you do, any stretching that you do, any like body weight type warm-ups, glute bridges, body weight squats, whatever you might do before you get under the bar. Give yourself plenty enough time to do all of those things. And then also locate the warm-up area. And then make sure you get a squat rack for your warm-ups. Now, there's going to usually only be a few squat racks, and there's can be up to 15 people in a flight that are all going to want to be warming up at the same time. So if you're there by yourself, if you're not with a team or anything, look for someone who's about your same height, because you might have the same rack height. So that's going to make warm-ups a lot smoother, because you won't have to worry about changing the rack height for every single warm-up that you do. You and whoever's warming up with you can just rock and roll through them. All right, so while you're warming up, the meet director is going to hang up some lists on the wall. Usually it's in a few different places around the venue. Oh, I just booped my dog by accident. It's usually in a few different places around the venue. It's going to have your flights. So each group of people is in what's called a flight. And then it's going to have your flight order. So you're going to know in what order you're going. Figure out who is before you and make sure you know who that person is, so that you're able to easily recognize, oh shit, they're up, that means I'm next. Usually it means they'll announce who's next and who's in the hole and whatnot, but not always. Sometimes there's just not enough extra personnel there to do any announcements. So you have to make sure you're paying attention to the order, and it'll be on a screen as well. Make sure you're paying attention to that order so that you know when it's going to be your time to go. If you are in flight A, that's the first flight, you want to make sure that you are getting your warm-ups done ASAP when you get there. Get going right away. If you're in a later flight, in flight B or flight C or D, you can chill for a little bit. Just make sure you find a good campsite, locate the bathrooms, all the stuff I mentioned earlier. But you'll want to start your warm-ups once the flight before you heads to the platform. So you'll have a little bit of extra time if you're in a later flight. If you're a new lifter, there's a very good chance you're going to be in flight A, because it goes in order of how much weight is on the bar. So there's a real good chance you'll be in the first flight. I'm usually always in the first flight too. And you could just get yourself ready to go. All right, if you have any questions as we go, please leave those in the comments. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the comments here on my second screen over here, but Facebook doesn't always tell me when there are comments. So if I don't see it in the process of this live, I apologize, but I will absolutely get to you, get to your comment or your question afterwards if I don't see it during. Okay, so there will be time in between when you do your squats, before you do your bench, and then before you do your deadlifts. So in that time, you're going to want to eat, relax, and hydrate. Most meets will last the whole entire day. So there's going to be a lot of downtime. When you figure your lift takes less than 1 minute, even if it is 1 minute, and you lift 9 times, you get 3 attempts for each lift, it's 9 minutes of work for an entire day of sitting there. So make sure that you are bringing food. Bring a good lunch. Bring snacks. Again, don't bring anything weird or new or unusual. Stick to things that you know your body can digest well, things that you know your body handles well. Most people bring sandwiches, some kind of cereal. I always have a box of cereal that I'm eating out of. Candy is always very popular at meets. Nerds clusters for the win, let me tell you. Swedish fish are also great. Gummy bears. You see a lot of people, there's like a common phrase called deadlifts and gummy bears. It's a thing. So there'll be a lot of candy there. Don't be ashamed. Granola bars, popcorn, things like that. Don't forget to make sure you bring extra water just to be safe. Not all venues will have access to a water fountain. There was one meet that I did not too long ago where they did have a water fountain, but the water that came out of it was very warm and I was not trying to drink that. So make sure you always bring extra water as well. Don't forget your caffeine. If you like pre-workout or if you drink, Bang or Monsters or anything like that, don't forget. God forbid you forget the caffeine at a powerlifting meet. Sweet Lord. So now we're going to talk about the lifts themselves. So for every lift, once the spotters and the loaders have all the correct weight on the bar, the head judge is going to announce the words platform ready. And once he says or she says platform ready, you will have 1 minute to get up to the bar, get yourself set up and unrack the bar. 1 minute is a lot longer than it seems. So don't panic, don't run, don't be stressed, just get up there and do your thing, okay? For squats, you will just need to get under the bar and stand up, get it off of the rack in order for that 1 minute timer to stop. You do not have to actually start your squat within that 1 minute. All you have to do is get the bar off of the rack. So once you unrack it, you're going to back out, get yourself settled, make sure your hips and your knees are completely locked out tight. And then you're going to hear the head judge announce the word squat really loud. They're going to yell squat. And that's your cue that you can start your squat as soon as you're ready. This is not a directive. When the head judge says squat, you are not required to squat that second. That just means that essentially you have permission to squat. So get yourself ready, take a big breath, whatever it is that you're about to do. Then you go ahead down and you perform your squat. You want to make sure that the crease of your hip, like where your hip bends in, hits below the top of your knee. So I'm going to show you an example. Bear with me for one moment. I joke around with y'all all the time. The elderly is trying to use technology. Bear with me a minute while the elderly figures out technology. I'm going to show you a squat set that I did just this past weekend. Hold on. I'll be damned if I can figure out how to share my screen. There's probably a button that says share screen, right? I know I've done it a million times before. Oh my God, y'all, not only is there a button that says share screen, but it's literally like bright green and everything else is gray. I was looking right over it. Holy moly. Okay, let's share my screen. All right, so this is me. This is me just this past Saturday. And what I want to show you here is, I'm going to turn this volume off. I'm going to just show you what I mean by the crease of your hip getting down below the top of your knee. So I'm going to hit play here and let me get set up. You notice here my knees are wrapped. I compete in classic raw. If you remember from last week, classic raw has wrapped knees versus just knee sleeves. So you're going to unrack, you're going to back out. So at this point, the judge might say squat. Actually, my hips aren't quite locked out like I'd like them to be, but my knees are locked out. The head judge is going to say squat, and I'm going to go ahead and take my breath, and I'm going to begin my squat. So if you look here, did I pause it at a good spot? I think it's pretty good. Whoops. So if you look at where I'm standing, the crease of my hip is kind of right where that line is on my leggings. That's kind of nice that that happened to be there. And you want that to get down below the top of your knee. Hold on. Whoa, going too fast. So if you look at this, here's the top of my knee. If I drew a line straight across, that crease is below the top of my knee. So this would be considered a good lift. Then after you do your lift, you're going to stand up. And right at this top spot here, the judge, you're going to wait. Do not put the bar on the rack yet. You need to stand up, hips fully locked out, knees fully locked out, and they're going to say rack. And the spotters and loaders that are there are going to help you re-rack the weight. So let me turn off my share here for a second. All right. And hold on. Again, elderly technology doesn't always go hand in hand, let me tell you. Okay, so I want to actually show you a meet day squat. So this was from my meet in November. Let me share again. Okay, we're sharing. So this is the head judge. Actually, I'm in the way. This guy in the chair right in front here, he's the head judge. And you're going to see this board right here. It's going to get kind of covered because he's going to lean forward and there's going to be people in the way. But lights are going to pop up on this screen right here. So after the squat is completely finished, the bar is racked, you're going to turn and look for the lights. This 1 minute countdown is a 1 minute I was talking about how you have 1 minute to get to the bar. Actually, I'm just going to let this happen. Here's some of my friends yelling. Shout out Sienna. I don't know if y'all can hear it or not, but you see this 1 minute countdown happening. Okay, see his hand up in the air. Now he's telling me to squat. I gotta go down, come back up, and then he says rack. Okay, so he pulls in and says rack. So I stand there until he says rack, and these spotters and loaders usually are going to grab the bar and help you rack it yourself. You won't have to do that. And then I got these white lights over here. That means it was a good lift. Everything's great. Okay, so stop my sharing and let's talk about bench press. If you have any questions about squat, if there's anything that I did not explain clearly or anything you are not sure about, please, please, please put that in the comments. go to what happens after the lift. So after you get those lights, yay, you got 3 white lights, or you can get 2 out of 3 white lights, also counts. If you get only 1 white and 2 of them are red, then that means it was not a good lift. Maybe it's that you didn't go down low enough, or you racked the bar before they gave the commands, or you started a squat before the commands. You have to wait on all those commands, or else your lift does not count. And so if you have whatever the lights are, you're going to head over to the table where you're going to give your next attempt. So let's say you got 2 or 3 white lights. It was a good lift. Yay, you're so happy, you celebrate. And so then you want to try, you're going to give your next number. You're going to make it up a little higher. You want to try lift even more. If it is not a good lift, if you got 2 or 3 red lights, then you probably want to do the same weight again and make sure you get it the next time you come up. There are some people that will sometimes put in something a little bit higher if they're like super duper confident. I don't usually recommend that. We usually always just redo the same thing to make sure we get it. If you miss all 3 of your attempts in any one of your lifts, then you're out of the meet. So it's always best to make sure that your first attempt is very, very low, that you're sure you can do it. You can even do it on a bad day in the gym. Make sure you get on the board, and then everything after that's just gravy. Okay. Okay. So, I wanted to mention, I should have mentioned this sooner. Yesterday, I had a Mythbusters question, and the question literally said, is this a myth or truth or a myth? You have to lift a shit ton of weight in order to compete. I literally even put the phrase shit ton, hoping that it would be obvious that we don't have any actual metric to measure shit tons. So you need to know that you do not have to be lifting a ton of weight in order to compete. Anyone can compete as long as you meet the requirements of the rule book, like in the squat, as long as you can get down to your depth down as low as it needs to be. And you can need to be able to lift the weight of the bar and the collars, which is usually around 55 or 65 pounds, depending on what bar they're using. That's it. You don't have to be lifting hundreds and hundreds of pounds in order to compete. Don't let the amount of weight that you are lifting prevent you from competing. The main thing is that you can meet the rulebook requirements. And then once you've met those requirements, you can continue to get stronger within those parameters of the rulebook. That's it. That's all you got to do. So don't ever let amount of weight prevent you from lifting. Just make sure that you're able to hit the rulebook requirements and you're good to go. Again, don't forget to say, hey, if you're watching this, whether it's live or replay, leave me a comment, leave me a heart, leave me a something. All right, let's talk about bench press now. A lot of these things are the same. You still have 1 minute to unrack the bench press, just like squats. And you're going to hold that bar at the top of the lift with your elbows completely locked out. If they're even a little bit bent, it's hard to see when I'm straight on. If they're even a little bit bent, the judge is not going to say start. They're going to wait for you to fully lock out your elbows. If you have some sort of a issue, like an injury or something that prevents you from locking out your elbow, you have to tell the judges in advance so they know. Otherwise, they're legit going to sit there and wait for you to straighten out your elbows. So make sure they're fully locked out. They're going to say start. At start, you can then lower the bar to your chest, and then you need to pause it on your chest. Don't let it sink in. Just let it touch the top of your chest. It has to be unmoving, completely unmoving. And then the judge will say press. And at the press, you can press it back up to the top. And again, like squats, you have to wait. Don't just re-rack it into the rack. You got to wait for them to say rack. And then when they say rack, the spotters and the loaders are going to help you again. Now, at that point, you'll turn around, you're going to check out all of your white lights, and you're going to see how absolutely incredibly amazing you are that you just had a good lift. Then you're going to go to the attempts and put in your next attempt. I'm going to share my screen to show you a meet day bench press. This again is from my meet in November. All of these ones that I'm showing here from my meet in November. It's my most recent one, so it's easiest. Okay. So here we go. Again, I have 1 minute. You see the lights over here. You can see the spotters and the loaders working to change the rack heights and all that. You're going to give them all that information ahead of time. And I'm just going to turn off the sound so I can talk through this. So I'm coming up. That's my husband doing my handoff for me. You can have someone hand off for you, or you can ask the spotters or loaders to hand off, or you can unrack it yourself. My husband unracks for me in the gym all the time, so I just have him do it. Okay, so now I'm holding it up, and you see the referee here just said press, or now he's saying press and come back up. Sorry, I got distracted. And then you have to wait there to say rack. Then you're going to look and you see the 3 white lights and yay, you're amazing. Go put in your next attempt. All right. Whew, I feel like I'm talking really fast because I don't want to keep y'all here forever, but I could talk about this forever if y'all would let me. We're going to move to deadlift. Sorry, let me move myself back over in front of me. All right. Finally, deadlifts. There is no start command for deadlifts. It happens all the time that people will get called. They'll say platform ready. People will go up to do their deadlift and they're just going to stand there and they're going to look at the judges and they're going to wait for them to say start. They're going to wait a long, long time because they're never going to say start. There is no start command. So once they tell you platform ready, you're just going to walk up to it. You're going to set up to the bar like you always do. And you need to at least start your attempt at pulling the bar. So that is how the timer will stop. That's how your 1 minute. You don't have to have the bar in the air before 1 minute. You just have to have made a good faith effort to start your lift. So when you get to the top, you're going to wait. They're going to say down, and then you're going to put it down. That's it. That's the only command during deadlifts is just down. So you have to be able to bring it up, wait at the top and down. So let me show you a deadlift. This is, again, this is actually my world record deadlift. A little bit of a flex there. This was a pretty flipping great day for me. So here, I'm going to let this play. So I'm coming up to the bar. You see my time right here.
I say again, it's a world record. 303.
So wait at the top, down. Then I can put it down, check your lights. And y'all, I got ups, let me tell you. Okay, so that is it. Those are the 3 lifts. So tell me in the comments what questions you have, thoughts, confusions. I am always more than happy to talk about this. Also, I'm wondering what else you would like to see in future live trainings. Or actually, I'm sorry, before I even get to that, there's a few more things I wanted to say about this. Those are the 3 main lifts and the basic requirements for those lifts. There are a lot of other small technicalities for each lift. Like, for example, in the deadlift, the bar can't have any downward motion when you're bringing it up. And there's other little smaller details. So make sure you read the rule book for whatever federation you plan on competing in. And then, like I said last week, hiring a coach is a huge benefit because it's the coach's job to make sure you're prepared for all of those things and to practice them and to make sure that you're good with it. You know exactly what you can and cannot do. And they can give you, obviously, too, appropriate programming to help make sure you're continuing to progress in the lifts within the parameters of the rule book. Again, I do coach women's powerlifting here in Nashville. And I have women of all experience levels. I have, in fact, I don't know, Justy, if you happen to be watching this, but I had someone compete just this past December, December 10th. Her first time ever even touching a barbell was in March of that year. So she went from March touching a barbell for the very first time to competing in December. It's amazing. So I coach women of all experience levels here in Nashville. And then online I coach as well too, but online I don't prefer to have brand new people to the lifts. So if you know how to squat, bench, and deadlift, whether it's powerlifting or not, if you just know how to do the lift, then I will coach you powerlifting. It's just when people are brand new, I feel like it's much more important that you have someone in person who can correct your lifts and teach you right on the spot in the moment at the gym. So I always recommend an in-person coach for someone that's brand new to lifting. But if you're not, an online coach is an option, and I do that. So if you're interested, hit me up. And yeah, that's it. So I'm always up for new ideas on any live trainings we want to do. Make sure you come back next week and chat with our guest, our pelvic floor physical therapist, to learn all about this. You might experience in powerlifting or have seen that sometimes when women pull heavy, they pee during PRs, personal records as a PR. So if that's something that you've experienced or something you've been concerned about, make sure you come back to our pelvic floor talk next week, and we're going to answer all of your pressing questions. So thank you so much for being here. Make sure you leave me a reaction, leave me a comment, leave me a something, and drink your water, eat your protein, and be adventurous and go try something new this week. I will catch y'all next week.